Hi, welcome to Hushed Stories. Tonight, you are stepping out of a small helicopter onto the black sand floor of Waimanu Valley, one of the most isolated and seldom visited places on Earth. A narrow fold of ancient volcanic earth hidden behind 3,000 feet of poly on the Hamakua coast of the Big Island, reachable only by a 9-mile ridge trail above the sea, or by exactly this: a 5-minute arc over the cliff face in a small charter helicopter, the kind of flight where the pilot banks and your stomach lifts pleasantly, and the Pacific spreads below you in every direction. And then the valley appears through the windshield, green and black, and sealed and startling. A secret the island has been keeping on the other side of those cliffs since the lava cooled. Before the blades had fully wound down, the pilot slid the door open and looked at you with the quiet expression of someone who has made this flight many times and has never once stopped finding the valley unreasonable in the best possible way. Everything you need is at the camp. He nodded toward the far end of the beach. Someone will check on you this evening. Orange flag, you'll see it. He said nothing else. He did not need to. The helicopter was already lifting off before you had taken 3 steps onto the sand, and then it banked east over the cliff top and was gone. And the sound that rushed in to fill the space it left was immediate and vast and inexplicably restful. The deep, slow heave of Pacific swells arriving at the shore 50 yards ahead, each one rolling in from 2,000 miles of open ocean, and meeting the black sand with unhurried authority, and woven through it, so completely woven that you cannot locate the seam between them. The continuous roar of the twin Waialakahi waterfalls cascading down the sheer basalt wall at the valley's head. 2 voices, 1 valley. And already, before you have done anything at all, your body is responding to both of them with something that knows the shape of itself, the particular loosening that happens when sound is old enough and large enough and steady enough to be trusted absolutely. Let your breath follow the rhythm of the water, in as the swell arrives, out as it retreats into the dark Pacific. The poly walls on 3 sides have sealed the rest of the world away as completely as stone can seal anything. And whatever you were carrying when you stepped off that helicopter is still out there somewhere, on the other side of those cliffs, and it will keep just fine without you. You are here. Put it down. The valley will hold you. The black sand is unlike any sand you have walked on before. It is older and denser and darker, each grain a tiny basalt fragment worn smooth over centuries by the action of this sea. and it holds the afternoon warmth in a way that feels almost deliberate, as though the beach has been storing it specifically for the soles of your bare feet at this hour. You took your shoes off within 10 steps of the helicopter without deciding to. The sand simply required it. It works between your toes in a way that is deeply and unreasonably pleasurable. The upper layer warm, and the layer just beneath it cool and volcanic. A temperature contrast that makes each step feel like pressing your palm against something alive. The valley opens its full dimensions around you as you walk toward the water. A quarter-mile arc of black shoreline curving from cliff base to cliff base, the Pacific filling the southern reach with its slow and enormous rhythm, and to the north the land rises through river gravel and broad-leafed hala pandanus and wild vegetation toward the sheer basalt walls, where the mist hangs permanently in the last amber of the afternoon light, where the ferns grow in cascades so dense and so green that the cliff itself appears upholstered in them. The smell reaches you properly now, the full compound of it. Sea salt and wet basalt first, that deep mineral honesty of volcanic rock holding rainwater in its pores, and beneath both, threaded through the coastal air in a current so specific and so beautiful it stops you mid-step. White ginger. Hedychium coronarium, growing in dense tangles at the vegetation line with its broad blossoms fully open in the late-day warmth, releasing a perfume so clean and tropical and precise that your lungs want more of it before you have finished exhaling the first breath. This is what the word paradise was always reaching toward. You think it was doing its best with what it had. It just never quite managed to arrive at the actual thing. The Waialakahi Falls announce themselves not as a sound you suddenly notice, but as a quality you realize you have been inside since the moment the helicopter lifted off. An enormous, low-frequency, white noise fullness that fills the valley from wall to wall, and that your nervous system has been processing without informing you, not as intrusion, but as something closer to the ground note beneath all music. The silence behind silence, the particular texture of quiet in this valley that makes it unlike any other quiet on earth. Twin columns of water drop 300 feet or more down the sheer black cliff face at the valley's head, their descent sending up a permanent mist that catches the last angles of the afternoon sun, and on good evenings like this one, briefly assembles a ghost pale rainbow in the lower reaches. You stop walking and face the cliff wall and listen, and the sound comes from everywhere at once. From above and behind you, and inside your chest cavity simultaneously. A frequency so encompassing and so consistent that after 30 seconds your brain stops trying to locate its edges and simply receives it, the way you receive weather, the way you receive the tide. Something enormous and entirely without agenda. Something that has been here long before your arrival and will be here long after, and is fine with the arrangement either way. The orange flag is exactly where the pilot said, a warm-colored pennant on a split bamboo pole, lifting in the coastal breeze at the base of the western cliff wall, 300 yards up the beach. You walk toward it, and the black sand tells you everything it stored during the long afternoon. Warmth, history, the particular smoothness of volcanic ground remade by the sea over centuries beyond counting. The Kakwi frogs have started their evening shift somewhere in the ginger to the east. Their two-note call, koki, koki, delivered with the cheerful, unhurried confidence of creatures who have been doing exactly this in Hawaiian valleys since long before any of it had a name in any language. They are simply here, calling in the warm dusk, which is exactly what you intend to be. Two small terns wheel over the waterline in the last of the amber light and do not acknowledge you, which feels correct and right. The valley has its own business. You are welcome to exist inside it tonight, and that is the whole of the arrangement, and it is entirely enough. The camp makes you stop walking and simply stand for a moment and take it in. A canvas bell tent, cream-colored, properly peaked, generous in its proportions, has been pitched on a level patch of black sand 10 yards from the cliff base, its door panel rolled back and secured so the interior faces the ocean, and every sound the valley makes can move freely through. In front of it, a small fire ring already laid with seasoned driftwood, and a length of tapa-cloth kindling, a folding camp table bearing a provisions basket, a dark bottle of locally produced macadamia blossom mead, and a glass jar of fresh water holding 3 white ginger blossoms cut from the tangles near the stream, placed here by whoever set up the camp, not because it was on any checklist, but because they thought of it. A solar lantern on a driftwood post, planted into the sand with evident deliberateness, already glowing amber in the falling light. 2 chairs angled toward the fire ring and the sea beyond. You stand there looking at the jar of ginger blossoms. The thinking of it matters. The small, considered gesture of beauty where no one would have noticed its absence is the thing that makes your chest do something quiet and warm. A small opening, a particular feeling closely related to being cared for that you did not know you were going to feel this evening. Inside the tent, the amber lantern turns the cream canvas walls the color of old paper and old honey. Bamboo matting covers the sand floor, and the canvas camp cot has been made up not with a sleeping bag, but with actual cotton sheets, slightly wrinkled from being rolled and transported and unrolled here. A quilted blanket in deep koa brown folded back at the corner, 2 linen-cased pillows, a sleeping bag tucked underneath for the mountain-chilled small hours beside the cot on the matting, a paperback translation of old Hawaiian chants, and tucked inside its cover, a handwritten note on torn cardstock. The valley's name means place of the moi fish. It has been loved here for a very long time. Sleep well. You read it twice. You set it down on the bamboo mat. You sit on the edge of the cot and breathe the inside of the tent, canvas and warmth, and the faint trace of whoever was here this afternoon. And behind it all, arriving softly through the open door, the ginger. And you feel the particular quality of a space that has been prepared for you by someone who wanted to get it right. It is right. It is more than right. But there is still light left in the sky, and this valley is waiting, and there is time yet, and sleep can keep. The downslope breeze arrives without announcement in the way that valley breezes always do. One moment the air is warm and thoroughly tropical and entirely settled, and the next, something cold and fast comes pouring off the cliff face and down through the ginger, and tree, ferns, and across the sand in a long exhale from the high forest above mountain altitude, arriving at sea level, carrying the smell of wet stone and the particular freshness of air that has never been indoors, that has been moving across open ocean and over the Pali Ridge and down through 2,000 feet of elevation in the past few minutes, and has arrived cool and clean and slightly electric at the exact point where your skin is waiting for it. It lasts perhaps 30 seconds. Every nerve ending reports in. Your lungs feel, briefly, twice their ordinary size. Then the warm valley air closes back around you, and you are left with your skin cooling pleasantly and something in your chest that can only be described as clarified, as though the breeze came specifically to clean the last residue of elsewhere out of you. You are already moving toward the falls. You follow the freshwater stream upstream from the camp, picking your way along the river gravel under the pandanus, the air growing cooler and wetter as you approach the cliff wall, the mist reaching you first as a fine coolness on your face, and then as something more substantial, a gauze of falling water particles that makes your hair go damp, and the late light turn briefly silver wherever it catches. At the base of the cliff, The pool is perhaps 15 feet across, pale gray-green over the black volcanic rock bottom, extraordinarily clear, the water moving slowly outward from the point of impact in long, concentric rings. You wade into mid-calf, and the cold is immediate and absolute and clean. A temperature so different from the warm tropical air above the surface that it produces a full-body recalibration. Every nerve registering, every muscle releasing tension it did not know it was holding. You stand there for some time, not thinking about anything in particular, which turns out to be the most luxurious thing that has happened to you all week. The falls thunder above, and the mist settles on your face, and the stream braids around your shins over smooth black stones. And you are entirely, precisely here, not observing the valley, but inside it, part of it. No seam between you and the water and the ancient dark cliff, and the enormous white noise of falling water encompassing everything. It is, you realize, the most present you have felt in some time. Then the light shifts above the poly walls, and you turn back toward the beach, and the smell of the ginger returns on the warm air, and the ocean opens ahead of you through the last bend of the vegetation, and the sky above the valley has gone a deep and spectacular amber rose, and the valley at sunset is something for which you will not find a sufficient word afterward. You will not need one. The Hanu finds you on the walk back, or rather, you almost walk past it, because it is so perfectly still and so nearly the color of wet black sand above the tide line that your brain initially registers it as a smooth, dark stone, and then, a step later, quietly revises. A Hawaiian green sea turtle, its domed shell perhaps 2 feet across, its great head resting against the sand, with the composed stillness of something that has been performing this exact action on shores, like this one, for 60 or 70 years, without ever questioning the arrangement. You crouch down a few feet away and look at each other across the black sand in the amber rose light, and its eye, round and amber and expressing nothing that could be summarized, opens and regards you with a calm so deep and so old that it produces in you something you were not expecting. A release, not of a specific tension, but of the posture that tension manufactures, the set of the jaw, the slight perpetual squinting of a person who spends most of their life in the modern world slightly braced for whatever arrives next. The turtle has never been braced in its life. It has eaten jellyfish and come ashore and returned to the sea for decades, and it intends to continue doing exactly this indefinitely. And it has arrived at a settled and permanent conclusion about the universe and its own place within it, that you cannot access directly, but can dimly sense from 2 feet of black sand between you. The amber eye closes. The Hanu settles more deeply into the sand. You stand and walk the rest of the way to camp, and you feel, without being able to fully account for it, that something has shifted, some residual bracing, some low-level vigilance carried over from a life lived mostly elsewhere, and that it has been shifting since the helicopter lifted off, and you have only now caught up with it. The fire catches on the second match, and within 10 minutes, you have a small, steady driftwood burn in the ring. Its heat amber and manageable. Its smoke carrying the salt of sea-soaked wood upward in a lazy column toward the gathering stars. The provisions basket reveals itself in stages. 2 vacuum-sealed pouches of coconut ginger fish chowder from a high-low fishmonger, whose name is written on a handwritten label inside the lid. A container of poi, a paper bag of roasted macadamia, nuts still faintly warm from wherever they were finished. 2 squares of 70% dark chocolate with black lava salt. And at the very bottom, a small tin of dried mamaki herb, leaves with brewing instructions in a careful hand. You heat the chowder in the outer coals, while the macadamia nuts disappear one at a time, and the fire works through the driftwood with the efficiency of salt-seasoned fuel, and the darkness thickens pleasantly around the amber circle of the lantern light. The chowder is ready when you can smell the coconut milk and ginger and fresh fish clearly through the foil, and you ladle it into the bowl and eat it slowly, with the particular satisfaction of something made with genuine care, and eaten outdoors after real physical effort. It is warm in your chest and your hands and your lap. The fire is warm on your face. The ocean is ahead of you, and the falls are behind you, and the coqui frogs are building their nightly chorus in the ginger to a full, shimmering frequency. And the valley is in its most beautiful hour. The blue hour after the sunset drama has finished, and before the stars have fully committed, when the poly walls are enormous dark silhouettes against the last pale light, and the air is at its most perfectly warm. The mamaki tea is the last and best thing. The small portable kettle from the provisions kit heats in 3 minutes, an improbable piece of modern convenience in a valley that has been here for millennia and does not require any of it, and entirely welcome anyway. And you steep the dried herb for the full 5 minutes and pour it into the camp mug and hold it in both hands and feel the warmth transfer through your palms. The steam that rises carries something earthy and faintly sweet and specifically Hawaiian. something of the native forest and the high-altitude earth. The herb that has been used in this archipelago for longer than anyone has been recording such uses. It settles through you as you drink it in slow sips by the fire, not dramatically, not with announcement, but with the quiet authority of something that simply belongs in your chest. You finish it and set the mug on the table beside the jar of ginger blossoms, which have stayed fresh in their water all afternoon, and whose scent, warmed by the fire and the evening air, has become the dominant smell of the whole camp, sweet and real, and exactly here. The fire settles into its most comfortable stage. Smaller flames, orange-cored logs, the particular warmth of a fire that has done its urgent work and is now simply being. You sit with it for a while. The valley breathes around you. This is enough. This is, in fact, more than enough. You hear him before you see him, soft footsteps on river gravel, the crunch of someone who knows exactly where to place each foot on a trail they have walked for years in the dark. The guide resolves at the edge of the firelight. A man of perhaps 60, lean and barefoot, wearing a faded aloha shirt and carrying a headlamp he clearly does not intend to use, moving with the ease of someone for whom this valley is not a destination, but a long-standing home. He stops at the edge of the light and nods, small and warm, and asking nothing of you in return, and you nod back. Valley's doing her best work tonight. He tilted his head toward the poly walls and then back at the fire. Rain'll come through around 10, light stuff. Warm. Falls will sound better after it passes. Listen for that. Anything you need before I head up. You shake your head and mean it, and he nods once with the same warm economy and turns back toward the stream trail. His headlamp stays off. He has no need of it. Within a few steps, the dark closes around him completely, and the sound of his footsteps on the river gravel fades into the larger sound of the water and the frogs, absorbed without remainder. You are alone again, but it is the right kind of alone, the kind with its own name, the kind that has shape and boundary, the kind that comes with the knowledge that someone who loves this place is sleeping somewhere up the stream and will be here in the morning. The dark feels differently inhabited for it, not crowded, just accompanied. The frogs have built their chorus to its full evening register by the time you bank the fire and carry the provisions basket inside. A shimmering, continuous, overlapping texture of two-note calls filling the ginger, and the fern groves from one cliff base to the other, threaded perfectly between the ocean's low base and the fall's high constant. as though the valley's acoustic architecture was designed for exactly this purpose. The stars above the narrow gap between the poly walls are extraordinary. Not the polite handful of bright objects visible from inhabited places, but the actual sky, dense and historical and overwhelming. The Milky Way spanning the full width of the valley gap in a solid band of silver light, so bright it casts the faintest possible shadow on the black sand below. You sit for a while with your head tilted back and your hands loose on the chair arms, and you look at it and think nothing at all, which is the closest approximation to perfection that thinking can achieve. The rain arrives precisely when the guide said it would, rustling through the pandanus and ginger in a warm advance, individual drops on broad leaves, plant by plant, moving across the beach toward the camp. And then it is overhead, and on the canvas tent roof in a light, unhurried tropical shower. Nothing like the cold rain of higher latitudes, warm enough to stand in comfortably without consequence. You carry the provisions basket inside and zip the mesh door closed and sit on the edge of the cot and listen to it fall. The drumming on the canvas is full and warm and companionable. Each drop briefly individual before the density of the shower blends them into something more like a sustained chord, not noise, not disturbance, but company, the specific comfort of weather doing what it does with no awareness of you or interest in you, proceeding without agenda through a night. It has been producing over this valley for as long as this valley has had air above it to carry rain. The ginger smell intensifies. The amber lantern holds the cream walls in honey light. The quilted blanket is exactly the right weight across your chest. The linen pillow is cool on one side and warm where your head has been, and the combination is precisely correct. You lie back and close your eyes and let the valley's full sound arrive all at once. Rain on the canvas falls on the cliff wall, ocean through the mesh panel, frogs in the wet ginger, 4 things at once, 4 layers of water and life fitting together in a harmony so specific to this place that it could exist nowhere else on earth and does not. Nothing is required of you inside these sounds. Nowhere exists beyond the poly walls tonight. You breathe in through the ginger smell and breathe out through the rain sound. And the last thing you were holding, which was simply the habit of holding things, releases without ceremony, as quietly as the guide's footsteps fading into the dark. The rain lasted 20 minutes. You may have been already asleep for some of it. What remains when the rain withdraws is the valley's fundamental voice. Two sounds only, the way a place becomes most purely itself when everything extraneous has been washed away. The ocean sends its swells to the shore one at a time. The long, deep, chest-felt impact, the foam spreading and retreating in a slow exhale, the pause, the next swell arriving with the same unhurried authority it has always carried. And the falls, beneath and within and above the ocean's rhythm, never varying, never diminishing, constant as the cliff wall from which they fall. The sound that has been here since the watercourse first cut its path through the basalt, and will be here for as long as there is rain on the high forest and gravity to pull it downward. Your brain stopped filing it as sound some time ago. It has filed it instead as the texture of silence here, the particular quality of the quiet in this valley, the way stillness feels when it is made of water. Both voices come through the canvas, and the mesh exactly as they are, asking nothing. The heaviness that belongs to a well-used body has reached your chest now. It traveled up through your feet hours ago. The good heaviness, the earned kind, the warmth of feet that have walked black sand and waded cold mountain water and stood on river stone at the base of the falls and found a sea turtle resting in the moonlight. Through your legs and hips and lower back, which have released the last of their habitual compression into the cot, the long-held posture of being upright in the world giving way all at once to the surface that has been capable of holding you the entire time and has simply been waiting for this. Your hands rest open on the blanket the way hands go when they are finished being hands for the day. Your jaw has unclenched. You feel the smoothing of it now that it has happened. The easing of the small and persistent vigilance the waking face maintains. The release of the muscles around your eyes and your mouth. The particular feeling of a face that has nowhere to be and has accepted this. The pillow holds the back of your head. The blanket holds the warmth your body has made and returns it. Nothing is being asked of you. Nothing will be. In the deep hours of the valley, night, the Kakwi chorus modulates down to a quieter, more spacious register. One pair calling somewhere in the eastern ginger. Their two notes slower than they were at dusk. The interval between them widening as though even the frogs have settled into the hour that asks for less. The ocean swells arrive at longer intervals, or you have calibrated to them so completely that the interval has become internal, a rhythm absorbed without decision, a breathing you are now sharing with the water without knowing precisely when you began. The falls go on. They will go on when you wake, and when you leave, and in 100 years, when no one living tonight is here to listen. They are the most reliable thing in the valley, the sound that requires nothing and changes for nothing and has been itself since the cliff was shaped and will continue being itself until forces larger than any of this reshape it again. You are inside that sound, not observing it, inside it, the way you are inside the dark, the way the Hanu is inside the sand above the tide line, the way the ginger is inside its own steady blooming, temporarily and without claim, and entirely, completely, precisely here. Your thoughts dissolve now the way they only do when sleep is very near, not with edges or urgency, but softly, already loosening as they form, already becoming impressions rather than thoughts. The Hanu's amber eye on the black sand, the cold of the mountain pool against your shins, the handwritten note inside the cover of the old chant translations, the guide's footsteps fading without a headlamp into the dark, the white ginger blossoms in their jar of water beside the tent door, still open out there, still releasing their smell into the rain-washed night air, blooming for no one and for everyone in the same steady, unhurried, beautiful way that the falls fall and the ocean breathes and the stars burn above the narrow valley sky. The valley has been loved here for a very long time, the note said, and you feel it in the way the camp was prepared, in the way the guide said her when he spoke of the valley, in the way the black sand holds warmth, as though warmth is something worth holding and returning. You are not the first person to be held here. You are one in a long, quiet succession of people who arrived at this shore carrying whatever they carried and set it down at the cliff wall and let the water speak and found that it had something useful to say. The canvas walls glow with the very last ember of the lantern battery, amber fading toward nothing, and then it is nothing, and the dark inside the tent is the same dark as the dark outside it, all one dark, the ancient dark of a valley that has been this dark since long before anyone put a name to it. The blanket holds you. The cot holds you. The valley holds the cot, and everything it contains with the complete and impersonal competence of the earth holding all things, which is to say, without fanfare, without needing to be thanked, simply holding because that is what it does, because it has been doing it since before anyone was here to appreciate the fact of it. The ocean is arriving at the shore. The falls are falling. The night is warm and the sand is still, and the ginger is blooming in the dark outside, and the guide is sleeping up the stream, and the Hanu is somewhere in the black Pacific, moving through the deep water the way it has always moved, unhurried and ancient and entirely sure of its place in the world. You are here. You have been delivered somewhere real and rare, and you have moved through it carefully and received what it gives. And now the valley has one last thing to offer, and it is the longest and warmest and most complete sleep you have had in recent memory. And it is already here. It is already you. It has been building toward this since the helicopter lifted off and the falls came in. Sleep now. The valley will be here in the morning.